Right, before we begin today, let me just peel back the onion for a little bit, give you a bit of context for what's going on here. If you watch a lot of car videos, you've probably figured out there's a pretty standardized formula for how it works when a new car comes out. First, you do the first look video, right? That's where I stand in the studio with the car and read the press release. Then you do the first drive. That's the one where we jump in it for a few hours. We give speedy first impressions of what we think. And maybe you do a third video where you live with the car for a couple of weeks and get into the nitty gritty. This is none of those things today. What we have here is a really early, really sneaky early sneak peek at a car that is not coming out for a little while, but it's quite interesting and worth a little early peek, because that, underneath that fancy paint job, is the new VW ID.7. It's quite a big car, and it's quite a big deal for VW because it's a chance for them to build on the mostly excellent start that they've made with their first offering of EVs, and also a chance to put a few errors right. So what have we got? What do we know so far? Disclosure, not a whole lot, but let's see what we can tell you. That is the new VW ID.7, and this is the Fully Charged Show.
Like the Fully Charged Show? Then you will love our 6 live shows being held around the world in 2023, starting with Sydney, Australia on March the 11th and 12th.
Welcome to Electric VW number 6. Number 6. Can you count them all off in your head? We've got the 3, we've got the 4, we've got the 5, which is really just the 4 with a slopey bottom, but it counts. We've got the Buzz, and then we've got the ID.6. You know that one? That's China only. That model. This is the 6th EV from VW, and only the 2nd that's going global. Only this and the ID.4 are or will be available in the United States, in China, and in Europe. So this is a big car for the VW brand. This, by the way, is VW's flagship model. There's no plans for an ID.8 right now. This is it. This is the big one, the main one, the fanciest one. And incidentally, the next electric VW that we're getting after this is the small one, the ID.1, ID.2. We don't know what it's called yet, but that is quite exciting as well. And by the way, when I say sneaky early sneak peek, this car isn't even scheduled to be unveiled until April. Should we have a little poke and a prod and see what we can see? Let's start at the front. We've got this very swoopy shape at the front end here. It's giving me a little bit of Ioniq 6 vibes. Aerodynamics clearly a big focus with the design of this car. They want to get that drag coefficient down really, really low. They want it to have big old range. More on that in a second. And this aerodynamic front end is going to be key to achieving that big old range figure. As we come around the side, big car. It's almost 5 meters long. I think a lot of people, myself included, were sort of imagining this as like an electric Passat, but it's not, because a Passat ends about here, and then an Arteon, that's about here. We're on to sort of Phaeton length almost. Remember the Phaeton? That was the big, really fancy luxury barge that VW made 15 odd years ago. It was basically a Bentley underneath. Phenomenal thing, spectacularly unsuccessful. And have VW made the same error? Are they gambling on another really, really luxury car? Well, no, I don't think so, because in the short presentation that we had just a moment ago, this was described as a Tesla Model 3 long-range competitor. That's quite interesting, isn't it? That gives us a little bit of a clue about where they're pitching this car, about how much we could maybe expect it to cost. That to me means that this is going up against the Model 3, but also the Polestar 2, the Ioniq 6, the BMW i4. That is a fearsome foursome to have to take on. So what's this thing going to offer to distinguish itself from those outstanding electric cars? Well, for one, space. I'm guessing an awful lot of space. The thing about these MEB cars is they are so big on the inside for how big they are on the outside. This one's really big on the outside, so I'm imagining it's like a cave in there. It's going to be so roomy front and back. It's quite a lot higher than I thought it was going to be, so I anticipate that rear space, both head and legs, is going to be outstanding, and that is a shortcoming of the i4, the Polestar, the Model 3, and the Ioniq 6. Lots of space in there, and there is nothing more luxury than that, is there? Premiumness is something that VW are really pushing with this car as well. That's something that I feel the ID cars have kind of got steadily better at. The ID.3 slightly lacking, ID.4 a bit nicer, ID Buzz really quite nice. And this will be a step above again. And then the other thing that's really going to make this car stand out in this segment is the range. VW is claiming up to 700 kilometres. Now, I don't really know what up to means in terms of real world range, but that is a long old way. And that will be achieved, of course, by this very slippery design, hopefully by really impressive efficiency, and I'm guessing also achieved by fitting the biggest battery that we've seen on an MEB platform car just yet. And of course, that is the thing about this MEB platform. It's super modular. This massive galoot of a car is sitting on the same platform as the little ID.7. That's kind of cool, isn't it? And then round the back, well, I can't comment too much on the design because I can't really see it, but I know there's going to be a light bar across here, which will be very nice. I know that this is actually a fastback, so this whole back piece will open up. Super practical for getting stuff in. Even more practical will be the shooting brake version, because there will be an ID.7 wagon. Yes! Yes! Love it. A couple of things worth mentioning from the somewhat limited press release that we were given before this event. A couple of things that VW are very excited about with this car. One is this paint job, which is made from 40 layers of paint. It's electroluminescent, which basically means if you play Darude Sandstorm, it dances, as was shown to us before. We can't show you that because copyright, but oh, I wish you could see. The other thing worth noting is it's got a very fancy climate control, a bizarrely climate control centric press release, if I'm being very honest, but the gist of it is that this car can do some very clever things like detect when you're approaching it thanks to the key and get warm or cold for you in anticipation of your arrival. It can also tell where the sun is in the sky and who in the cabin's getting more of it and give them a little bit more aircon. That's quite fun, isn't it? What's more interesting to me than that is that there is some mention of a sort of redesign of the user interface with this car. As we know, with the existing ID cars, the user interface is something of a shortcoming. It can be quite frustrating to use in a number of ways, and there are some clues that VW have picked up on that and responded to it with this car. So, for example, the rubby climate control slidey things are now lit up, thank goodness. That's a very good thing. The touchscreen is a little bit bigger. It's up to 15 inches, which should just make it a little bit easier to use. The climate control functionality will stay on the screen at all times. Love to see it. I'm hoping that maybe there's a few more physical buttons because I kind of miss those just generally, but that remains to be seen. Well, that was short and sweet, wasn't it? I did warn you, this is early. This is an early look, but I thought I'd step outside to give you my initial thoughts, concluding thoughts on the ID.7. A, because it's a little bit easier to speak freely when you don't have 90 VW employees in the room with you, and B, because I want to remind you that this is our crew car here at Fully Charged. This is Big Blue, our ID.4, and we love this thing. We've done damn near 20,000 miles in this car in the 6 months that we've had it. We know ID cars very well here at Fully Charged Show. We know what we like about them and we know what's not so great about them. And I would summarize this car and VW's EVs so far in general thusly. They've done the hard stuff incredibly well. They've built a brilliant modular EV platform with good range, good efficiency, great handling. That's the good stuff. And then they filled the cabin with some really quite annoying little buttons and made it not especially user-friendly, which is very not VW, historically speaking. That car to me is VW going, look, we know we've got a few things a little bit wrong, but we're working on it and we're going to put it right. And that's quite exciting because I think that these VW EVs are just a few small corrections away from being truly outstanding electric cars. So there we go, VW ID.7. VW ID.4. We'll find out in a couple of months whether I'm totally wrong about all of this or not. But for the meantime, please do make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have been, thank you for watching.